Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have roll call, please, Maureen.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Beer?
Here.
Mrs. Medina?
Here.
Mrs. Rayon?
Here.
Mrs. Head?
Here.
Mr. Krings?
Here. Thank you, Maureen. We'll start out with our student representatives report. Jacqueline, welcome back.
Thank you. So on August 16th, there was Stuff the Bus, and then on August 17th, they had Stuff the Desk. And then there's freshman orientation with Link Crew on August 27th. And then on September 3rd, students received Chromebooks.
Excellent. That's a good start to the year. Okay, we'll start out with approval of the minutes.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of August 12th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of August 12th, 2019. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Move on. Do we have any comments from citizens delegations tonight?
No.
Thank you. Move on to committee reports. Head services. Mary. Yeah.
I have to do first. Okay, Ed Services Committee held its regular meeting on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. Those were our committee meetings. There were 4 consent agenda items. Does anyone want any of those held out? Okay, I would like to hold out ES2. So with that, the committee recommends and I move to approve ES1, ES3, and ES4. ES1 is to approve Board Policy 152 goal setting for first reading. Administration has begun a review of policies specifically related to the area of curriculum and instruction. Since a number of policies have not been updated in years, the recommended changes bring these policies more in line with organizational changes and current practice. And ES3 is to approve Board Policy 253.4, development and approval of rules and regulations, and Board Policy 253.4, rule approval of agenda planners for first reading. And then ES4 is to approve Sarah Arndt to serve as the CII parent representative for the 2019-20 and 2020-21 school years, and Brian Kopetsky to serve as the CII parent representative during the 2019-20, 2021, and the 2021 and 22 school years.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second to approve ES1, ES3, and ES4. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, and then on ES2, Kathy, I think there was one change that had to be made, is that?
That is correct,
Do you wanna
changing
just-
the word secondary to student.
Right. And I think I have it was in our background information on Ed Services. Okay, so we're just going to change the secondary agenda over to student agenda if everyone's okay with that.
Okay.
All right, so with that, then I would move to approve Board Policy 185.3 Ed Services Committee for first reading with the correction.
We have motion and a second to approve ES2 with the correction. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then going on to updates. First one was Every Student Succeed Act, and Kathy updated us on the entitlement grants. Title I, improving the academic achievement of disadvantaged kids. Funding in 2018-19 was $983,500 and has been reduced by $40,719 for 2019-20. Funding supports salary and benefits for reading and math interventionists, homeless programming, private parochial support and supplies, professional development, parent involvement, behavior support, paraprofessionals, and a variety of materials and supplies. These school-wide Title I plans and goals for Grove, Howe, Meade, and River Cities are a requirement for the grant. Title II is preparing, training, and recruiting high-quality teachers. Funding in 2018-19 was $168,841 and has been reduced by $7,729 for 2019-20 for a total of $161,112. Dollars go toward AGR teacher, which is the Achievement Gap Reduction teacher's salary, the private parochial supports, the new teacher mentor program, instructor compensation, keynote speakers brought in on professional development days, and education effectiveness coaches' salaries. Title III is language instruction for limited English proficient and immigrant students. Funding in 2018-19 was $14,058 and has been slightly increased by $1,965 for 2019-20 for a total of $16,023. Dollars get allocated towards bilingual instructional aid support, materials and supplies, professional development, and transportation. Title IV was student support and academic enrichment. Funding in 2018-19 was $65,406 and has been increased by $1,951 for 2019-20 for a total of $67,357. Funding under Title IV helps to ensure students have access to a well-rounded education. It promotes safe and healthy students and aids in the effective use of technology. And then Title VI is the Indian Education Program. Funding in 2018-19 was $23,551 and has been reduced by $543 for 2019-20 for a total of $23,008. These title funds support a liaison position, professional development initiatives, and provides opportunities for students to participate in field trips, tutoring, and cultural events. The funds we expend from this are for after-school transportation for students to be taken from school to the Nakusa Youth Learning Center for tutoring. Transportation is arranged by our Title VI liaison. There was a question asked at our committee meeting and it was answered for this meeting. So with that, I make a motion to approve the Ed Services Committee meeting of September 3rd.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the meeting minutes of the Educational Service Committee meeting of September 3rd, 2018. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Thank you for the report, Mary. Move on to business services. Katie's graciously agreed to give the report because John's not here tonight.
Yes, thank you. So, Business Services Committee met on September 3rd after the Educational Services Committee meeting, and we had 3 consent agenda items. Does anybody want any of those filled out? No. Okay, so BS1 was our inter-district agreements for the virtual program, and we had students attending the virtual program from Auburndale, Kimberly, Stevens Point, and Wild Rose school districts. And the consent agenda item number BS2 was changed to the student non-discrimination and anti-harassment for the first reading, and that was just basically a change in that we're taking out a name for the people who are responsible rather than just putting in their title so that it doesn't have to be updated every time there's a change in the person who's carrying out that role. And then BS3 was Board Policy 830, the use of school facilities, and Board Policy 830.1, facility use policy for the Performing Arts Center for first reading. And this is just an update so that we can clarify that anything that is going on in our buildings is not necessarily representative of what we believe as a school district. So I guess there's a concern that if we have people of, say, a religious gathering at one of our schools for some reason, that's not reflective of the Wisconsin Rapids School District policy or anything like that, that it's just, you know, that people have a right to use our facilities and we're not going to discriminate against a group for any reason like that. So we're asked, we put a line in there that was something about that this program or whatever is at the facility is not, not sanctioned by the school district or something like that. So I would make a motion to approve BS1, BS2, and BS3.
Second.
A motion and second to approve BS1, 2, and 3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
Okay, and then we just had some purchases. We had basement floors, and that was for the sanding and restriping in the old and new gymnasiums at the middle school, painting for the classroom, some classrooms, the Pure Power Technology Systems, which is our security camera installation, and the Paragon Development Systems, which is the network controls for the district technology. And with that, I would make a motion to approve the remainder of the minutes for the Business Services Committee of September 3rd, 2019.
A We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Business Service Committee meeting of September 3rd, 2019. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Thank you, Katie. Move on to Personnel Services. Sandy.
Okay. Personnel Services met last Tuesday, September 3rd at 6:30 PM. There was no public comment at that meeting, but from that meeting, we have 11 consent agenda items, and they are as follows. Number 1, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 2 professional staff appointments. 2, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 12 support staff appointments. 3, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 support staff appointment. 4, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 professional staff resignation. That was a 4/10 FTE, and there was $800 paid by forfeiture for the late resignation. 5, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 5 support staff resignations. I just want to note that some of these resignations were effective as of August 19th, 20th, 23rd, and 29th. You know, it's nothing like giving us enough time to find replacements. 6, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 support staff retirement. That is our district van driver, and he's been with us for 27 years. 7, the committee recommends and I move to approve board policy 343.46, early college credit program for second reading. This entails why the district doesn't have to pay for some classes if they're comparable to what we have now. If it's a way for students or parents to seek reimbursement for transportation, that would have to be done through the DPI. And it's just, it says reasons why we would not pay for a class. 8, the committee recommends and I move to approve board policy 343.46 rule, early college credit program procedures for second reading. This is the same changes as the one above at 343.6. If we decide not to pay for something, we determine we're not going to, they have to appeal to the state superintendent within 30 days of the decision. And this, if they are taking another course and this is their second course and they failed the first course under this, they would be denied. 9, the committee recommends and I move to approve board policy 411.5, bullying for second reading. This is enumerating that individual schools use a variety of methods. 10, the committee recommends and I move to approve a 2.3% wage increase effective July 1st, 2019 for the following employee groups: psychologists, food production coordinator, food services, school nurses, computer technicians, network manager, systems manager, instructional software support, confidential secretaries, van drivers, and office clerical and aid support staff, and the 2.3% is what we've given our other groups. And 11, the committee recommends and I move to approve an increase for the PAC director position to $57,000 per year, retroactive to July 1st, 2019. Is there anybody that wants something held out?
Second motion.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve PS 1 through PS 11? Can we have roll call, please, Marie?
Mr. Krings?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mrs. Head?
Yes.
Mr. Beer?
Yes.
Mrs. Rahal?
Yes.
Thank you, Marie.
And then we had updates and report. Brian Oswald, our Director of Human Resources, shared that the teaching staff who request a personal day 30 days prior to the day that they want off will have it approved. In the past, this has not been the practice, but all other criteria remain in place that we have with that. And then we had some discussion on emergency school closure options for hourly support personnel. At our personnel services meeting, we had discussion about last year with 8 days, it was an anomaly. That we think perhaps we should just see what this year brings. You know, do we have as many again as last year? And we thought perhaps that, you know, it's going to cause more problems, and I think that's, the committee thought that it's going to solve. We're going to have some that will be able to do it and some that will not be able to do it. So we think, as a whole, the committee was a little apprehensive about it. So I'd like that to be reflected in the minutes. And finally, we had an update on our elementary class sizes. When you look at them, they are fantastic. We only have 3 schools, and they're all in 4th grade level that were in the mid to upper 20s. But other than that, they are in the upper teens, which is wonderful. And a lot of them are lower than last year. So I think that's fantastic. And with that, I move that the minutes from the September 3rd Personnel Services Committee meeting be approved as printed.
Second.
A motion is second to approve the meeting minutes of the Personnel Service Committee of September 3rd, 2019. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Thank you, Sandy. Move on to agenda referrals, information requests. Do they have anything this month? Okay, we can move on to legislative. Troy, what's new?
So tonight we'll be looking at what's coming out of both houses of the legislature, and we'll take a look at WASB's position on all the bills. And they've had a couple resolutions that they've introduced on behalf of the organization as a whole, so we'll take a look at those as well. Starting tonight, we'll jump into the bills. Senate Bill 364, authored by Senator Howard Marklein and John Spiros, who's actually one of our assemblyman from Marshfield, so one of our county legislators, and has been introduced in the legislature by those two. This bill changes the age for purchasing cigarettes, tobacco products, or nicotine products from 18 to 21, and imposes a minimum age for purchasing vapor products. WASB has come out in support of this bill based on our member-approved resolutions, and they actually have a resolution to express their support right on the website, right under the Board's Taking Action webpage. So that is Senate Bill 364 that was recently introduced. One of the resolutions that WASB as an organization joined on to, WASB joined on with at least 40 other state school board associations, signing a joint letter from the National School Board Association opposing the FCC's cap on the Universal Service Fund, USF, and a subcap on the schools and libraries E-rate, also rural health care programs. They signed on to this in support of allocating, helping fund, connecting schools to high-speed broadband and getting resources started on that. So they did sign on to that. 40 other school boards have signed on to the National School Board. So that, and then taking a look here, I actually found it quite interesting. State Senator Luther Olson, who is actually chairing the panel coming up at the Legislative Advocacy Conference, he wrote a pretty good op-ed in The Hill, which is a pretty respectable source. He wrote it with a Washington State representative, and it's a bipartisan piece, him being a Republican and she being a Democratic representative. It calls on state legislators to take the lead in returning education policymaking to its legacy as a top bipartisan priority like it was in the past. And they have a link to the letter on the WASB site and The Hill as well. It's actually quite an interesting read. So jumping further, more bills came up. Howard Marklein of Spring Green, yet again, he's doing a pretty good job lately, it seems, in terms of introducing some legislation lately. Him and Todd Novak, they're circulating a bill draft, getting other legislators to sign on in support of their bill, which is relating to contracts with parents to transport students to private and sometimes public schools. I know we talked about this a little bit last week in committee, but this bill in question would require the contract must compensate the parent or guardian a total amount for all pupils in a household who attend the same school rather than a per pupil amount. And it's noted that this change could potentially save districts money, being that multiple children in the same household are being transported to the same school in the same vehicle anyway. So regarding this bill, WASB came out in support of this bill and is actually urging all school board members to contact your state legislators before the deadline, which is tomorrow, to voice support for this bill as well. So they are.
What's the bill number?
It is the Marklein Novak LRB 2448. And tomorrow is the deadline, so I know it's coming up, but one day to support that. Looking at the Blue Ribbon Commission, recommendations are coming forward regarding that. I know 9 months ago they issued their recommendations, and ever since then it's kind of been taking a look and seeing which recommendations are to be put forward for legislation. Recently a number of bills have been put forward to implement the recommendations made by the Commission. There's quite a few, so I'll be I'll be brief going through them. The first one is Senate Bill 182 and Assembly Bill 196. This is a pair of companion bills, again authored by Howard Markline and a representative named Jeff Mursaw. These companion bills are relating to sparsity aid, and they would expand eligibility for sparsity aid in a way that mirrors the recommendations made by both the Blue Ribbon Commission and the Rural Schools Task Force. Moving forward, Senate Bill 327 relates to declining enrollment. This is authored by Senator Howard Markline and Rep. Romaine Quinn. This bill would modify the way school district revenue limits are adjusted for declining enrollment. Under this bill, under 327, a district's 2018-2019 three-year rolling average of enrollment would serve as the comparison for all subsequent years when calculating a declining enrollment adjustment. So basically, each year's three-year average would be compared to the 2018 and 2019 average, and the average prior to that, 16, 17, 17, 18, and then 18, 19. So that's 327 relating to declining enrollment. I better pick up the pace a little bit. Looking here at general aid payment schedule, this is a draft bill being circulated by Luther Olson of Ripon and Rob Hutton. This would modify the disbursement schedule for general equalization aid so that districts would receive 4 equal payments of 25% in September, December, March, and June. Currently, it's 4 quarterly payments, but it's 15% in September, 25% in both December and March, and the remaining 35% in June. And basically, in short, in the next 5 years, the September payment would increase by 2%, and the June payment would decrease by 2 points, with all the others being equal. So it would shuffle things around a little bit there. Let's see here. Relating to 4K, a draft bill is being circulated by Luther Olson and Joel Kitchens, which I believe those are the two lawmakers who are scheduled to attend the conference on the 2nd. Him in the Senate and Joel Kitchens in the Assembly. Their draft bill is allowing 4K programs that require full-day attendance for 5 days a week to count as a whole one pupil for state aid and revenue limit purposes. Right now, this is not the case, but they're working on that. And let's see here. The last couple of bills and some relate to grade sharing incentives and sharing administrative positions, both offered up by Senator Darling and Representative Falkowski. The sharing administrative positions would incentivize districts to share personnel and allow districts to enter into an agreement for sharing administrators, for example, for shared administrators, a shared HR director, IT director, and this aid would be received outside the revenue limit, and it would be awarded to eligible districts in the order that their applications are received. So that's regarding sharing administrative positions. So those are all the bills, the recommendations being advanced coming out of the Blue Ribbon Commission for that. And Wisconsin I recently sat down with key legislative leaders on education. It's a quite interesting interview. They interviewed quite a few folks, Luther Olson and Chris Larson, both state senators, and they interview quite a number of state representatives as well. It's actually a pretty good interview. I would recommend watching it. It's on the Wisconsin I page, and WASB has a link as well. So that's. And then just a couple of short things. Another reminder for member boards, WASB put out a final reminder that September 15th is the deadline for submitting a resolution to WASB and considering their official 2020 policies and positions. Just a couple of things they note: that before a resolution can be submitted, it must officially be voted on and approved by the board. And again, the 15th is the deadline, so Sunday I'll shoot for that one. And just quickly last, the state Senate nor the Assembly are expected to hold floor sessions during this month at all, so it'll be a little quieter going forward here in terms of business at the Capitol in floor session. The next scheduled floor period is October 8th through 10th. So next month, being 14th, we should see what comes out of that. So that is everything for this month.
All right, thanks for the report, Troy.
You mentioned Wisconsin Eye. They
Yes.
sometimes film some of the committee meetings, and I was watching Joint Finance, and 99% of the votes were 12-4. So, it's just
Puts things into, yeah.
Yes.
really frustrating watching it.
They do a good job with their coverage. They
Mhm.
really do.
Thank you. We'll move on to the bills.
Okay, I would make a motion that the receipts be noted and the bills be paid as printed.
We have a motion and a second that the receipts be noted and bills paid as printed. Can we have roll call, please, Mel?
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yep.
Mrs. Rayo?
Yes.
Mr. Beer?
Yes.
Mrs. Head?
Yes.
Okay, move on to new business. Possible action on employee appointments, resignations, retirement requests. Anything come through, Brian?
Not a minute.
All right. So I guess with that, then we move on to the calendar. Looks like on the 30th, there's a CII committee at 8 a.m. And then we're out into October, committee meetings on the 7th. So with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.